Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. In the aftermath of the San Bernardino shootings and the Colorado shootings last week and the countless shootings that have been a common denominator in the Obama administration, the psychology of America and the Western world at large has become fractured. And we're now living in a sophisticatedly constructed psychological schism where terms, words, and phrases have become redefined by the bombardment of mainstream media, and now, sadly, as I see it, increasingly in the realms of alternative media as well, where independent armchair journalists, admittedly someone like myself, share their theories, opinions, beliefs, and convictions about any given event. And perhaps it's causing a disservice to the truth community at large. And I personally have tried to move away from labeling these events as purely, quote, false flag or, quote, fake, without any real hard evidence, simply because we're not able to verify these things from behind our screens. And I don't wish to contribute to the watering down of information, but will openly comment on my perspectives as I personally see them and provide whatever facts I come across with as much sourcing as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think it's a false flag or I don't think it's fake. I'm just saying that I don't know that it is a false flag or it is fake. And not only that, it goes well beyond a simple false flag. This is a PSYOP, and I'll get to that in a moment. But in terms of this video, I want to show you how some of this socio-psychological schism has been created. Now, in particular to the shootings in San Bernardino, look at the effects. You have Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the so-called leftists all repeat the whole, quote, stricter gun laws thing like it's some sort of hypnotized trigger response to the phrase mass shooting. And if you scour social media, support for this sentiment is on the rise. On the other side of the aisle are the right-wing conservatives, whose political leaders tweet for prayers of the victims. And while my own personal sentiments lean closer to this aisle, I try not to identify myself as either party or either group because I see the game being played here, and I know a lot of you do too. But there's something that both sides tend to agree on, and that's the terminology. The word terrorism has become weaponized. In the broadest sense, the word just means any act designed to cause terror, which makes sense. But in a narrower sense, the word can be understood to feature a political objective, and that's what we're seeing now. It's politically loaded and emotionally charged. That's what the word has become. And in this last instance of the San Bernardino shootings, it has become synonymous with terrorism. And the more information, right, whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. The information that is being disseminated by the mainstream media suggests that this is in direct tie with ISIS and it is a terrorist act, even though they keep saying we don't know the motives. The bottom line is that these events, these shootings, is putting the fear of terrorism in the broad sense in the minds of the people, but then the mainstream media and the political leader heads are using their own tactics to narrow the definition of terrorism. And now there is a problem. And the story about how the neighbor didn't report the suspicious behavior because they didn't want to be pinned for racial discrimination, well, that's causing a whole nother thing, because now you have these people that are calling in to radio shows and saying that all Islamic people should be marked or identified somehow. It's just nonsense, because anyone who's awake will know by now that the real terrorists aren't these gunmen. And if we move back a little bit, what we're seeing in the Middle East, beyond just the scope of these acts of terror, are the rumblings of World War III. And while we've sort of been in a World War III situation for some time, nothing official has been declared as of yet. But the fear of it and the global issues surrounding it, the threats, the posturing, it's all still happening, and it's going to continue to happen until somebody strikes. And all the while, at least here in America, we're being distracted by these local tragedies like San Bernardino. And when the dust settles, people move on to their latest distraction, like video games, films, Star Wars movie. And speaking of Star Wars, let me make a 180-degree turn here and show you how some more of this psychological schism is being constructed. Now, we've just gone through a brief, very brief outline of some of the things going on with this whole thing of terrorism and the San Bernardino shooting. Not details, just an overall synopsis of these socio-psychological schisms. But consider this. The other day, I gave my analysis of the Pepsi production video called Black Knight Decoded and the whole alien agenda behind it. And in the last few days, we've hit a major slew of space-based news. And whether you believe space is real or not, the news and the propaganda that's being pushed out there is just ridiculous. Let me just list for you the things that were trending on my feed just last night. Okay, this is just last night. Number 1, NASA astronomers report discovery of faintest object in early universe. The object, named Tanya, which interestingly in Russian means mystery or secret, existed not long after the Big Bang and was seen by the Hubble and Spitzer space telescopes. An astronomer at the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile said. Interesting that it was mentioned by a Catholic astronomer. Number 2, Event Horizon Telescope. Scientists released result from study by a global network of radio telescopes. Observations from the Event Horizon Telescope indicate that the Milky Way black hole possesses magnetic fields. Scientists from the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics said. Number 3, LISA Pathfinder. European Space Agency launches satellite to test gravitational wave technology. The LISA Pathfinder was launched from French Guiana on Thursday in its mission to test technology to detect gravitational waves, also known as space ripples, is expected to last 1 year. CubeSat. NASA to launch satellite built by elementary school students. The STM-SAT-1 was built by students at the St. Thomas More Cathedral School in Arlington, Virginia, and is to be launched with 2 other CubeSats from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. 2 zingers there. Cubes and more from the Catholic Church. What number are we on here? 5. Number 5. Atlas V or Atlas V. Weather delays launch attempt of rocket carrying International Space Station cargo. The potential launch of the Atlas V rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida was rescheduled, blah, blah, blah. No big deal there. But still, space-based news. Number 6. SpaceX. Aerospace manufacturer wants to attempt next rocket landing at Cape Canaveral, reports say. SpaceX has previously attempted to land a reusable Falcon 9 rocket booster on the barge in the ocean. And if you guys remember, this was just tragic. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Number 7, Saturn. NASA releases photo of crescent moon behind planet's rings. The photo taken by the Cassini spacecraft shows the icy moon Enceladus above a lateral view of Saturn's rings. Cassini flew within 630,000 miles of Enceladus in July. And remember, I've made videos about Enceladus and how the name refers back to mythological giants. So what are they up to? Why so much about space all of a sudden in just one day? And why in conjunction with the whole Pepsi production about having a one world and everybody uniting and accepting our gods back and things like that? And then, of course, this month, the big release of Star Wars is going to have everybody distracted with the imaginations of space and the vastness of galaxies far, far away, right? And then getting back onto the ground here, diametrically opposed to this view of wonder and the journey into the final frontier, we're being bombarded with trauma in our cities and streets and fear of terrorists. This is why I'm suggesting that we're being led into a cultural psychosis. Now, psychosis is a mental disorder characterized by thinking and emotions that are so impaired that they indicate that the person experiencing them has lost contact with reality. Now, because of our bombardment of entertainment media, which is largely promoted as fiction, and our news media and political figureheads who constantly lie to us, our emotions, opinions, beliefs, and convictions are now being shaped by deliberate false information or deliberate lack of information, leading to this psychosis where our country and the people of the planet are literally losing touch with reality. The only way this can be summarized is to say that this is a psychological operation, a PSYOP. A PSYOP are planned operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions, motives, objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and individuals. And what we're seeing in this country, and largely around the world, is a massive social experiment, a PSYOP, conducted by a few in power who sit behind and above money, laws, and basic human ethics and morality. They have no problem lying to everybody. And that leads straight to the devil. John 8:44 says, "You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desire. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies." You know, it's really hard to know what's true anymore. There's so much information out there about so many different topics that it can get a little bit overwhelming. And I've seen comments and people message me, I don't know what to believe anymore. And, you know, part of it is you're going to have to decide for yourself because we still have that freedom, at least for now. But I think there was a reason why Jesus called himself the way, the truth, and the life. He is the way because he is the road. He is the path to the Father, to God. He is the truth, not just truth as spoken or truth as an idea or truth in the moral sphere, but truth as in reality. He is the real deal, the real creator. He's the one that made the universe. And he understood that in order to create a world with free will, with the sense of responsibility in individuals like us, we reflect God's creative power, but we're also given the access, a limited range of freedom to express ourselves, to make our own decisions, because otherwise we would just be mere robots. But that's what Satan wants. He wants robots. He wants a robot society. But to break free from it, Jesus had to be the truth. And he's the life, because both physical and spiritual life come from God. And Jesus embodied that in a physical body here on earth. And he died and resurrected to prove that he was beyond the physical realm. And so what I'm getting at here, going through all of this, is that we are being slapped around here by the enemy. I hear mainstream news people all the time now. What is the world coming to? Everyone has their opinion of what's going to fix it. And really, guys, there's only one thing that's going to fix it, and that's Jesus Christ. And it's not him doing any kind of external thing. It's not him setting up some sort of theocracy, although eventually in his return, essentially that's what it's going to be, but not so much in the human sense. God himself is going to reign from the New Jerusalem. But in the meantime, we're here and we can change lives individually, one at a time, one person at a time. And that's how we can effectively make change. We become the change, right? You've heard that kind of terminology. And I mean that not in the sense of any kind of political campaigning. I mean that just in the sense of the simple things that Jesus commanded, the two basic things. Luke 10:27, and he answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." So you got to love God. You got to love your neighbor. Very basic if you really think about it, but so revolutionary. Romans 13:8. Owe no one anything except to love each other, for the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. If we get hurt or if we even get killed in the process of extending God's love into the world, you have a bigger reward waiting for you in heaven. And I don't mean that in a sense of, hey, we should just go out and die. No, not that at all. But the way we can treat one another, the person next to you, can be a difference maker, and it can cause a ripple effect that allows us to be salt and light into the world and slow down this decay. Because I think God is fluid. I don't think God has set a hard time or hard date of his return. I think he is allowing us to dictate certain events to take place. And while they are prophesied to happen, we can choose to get there, saving the most number of souls or not. And I think a lot of us, are just ready to go bunker down and rip out our bug out bags and just pull out our shotguns and sit there and wait. And I don't think that's what God wants us to do either. So what I'm getting at here is this is a long-winded way to say, wake up from the mind control. Don't fall into the socio-psychological schisms. We are under a massive PSYOP. Break out of it. Don't fall into the psychosis. There's only one reality, Jesus Christ. He is the truth. And so hold on to him, because then we can avoid that psychosis. We can avoid the effects of the psychological operation. And that's why the Bible states that the truth will set you free, because we're not basing our thinking and our emotions on a basis of lost reality. We're not basing it on deliberate false information or deliberate lack of information. We're going straight to the source, the creator himself. And in that way, we won't lose touch with reality. And so again, I know I go into all sorts of different areas that some of you don't agree with. Secret space programs. You don't have to agree with me on the particulars, but I do think it's important for us to maintain a level of unity within the body of Christ, because there is way too much division out there in the church. And if we can just abide by the simple principles, I mean, Christians don't do this. Christians say they love God, but they certainly don't love their neighbor. And so that's what it comes down to. Hope you guys have an awesome day. God bless.